So today we're going to be talking about looking at graphs of quantitative data. So here is a set of quantitative data, something we counted. Last year I asked my class, how many siblings, do you have any siblings? And they came up and they put little dots. One person was an only child. 4 of them had one brother or sister. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold on. 9 of them had 2 brothers or sisters. 3 of them had 3 siblings. 2 of them had 4 siblings. 5 had 2 siblings, and 6 had 1 sibling. And so this graph, this dot plot, is what we refer to as a distribution. And this is a visual representation of our data, a distribution. And so how do we describe distributions? And describing distributions, guarantee you, is going to be on the AP exam. One of the free response questions will be describe the distribution, maybe 2 of them. And so we need to get a common way of describing so that we use the correct language that we can get points on the AP exam. Because, you know, we can look at this, and let's say we did this for hundreds of thousands of people. We'd get these bars and we'd get some kind of distribution that we could look at. So how do we describe it? So when we're looking at a distribution of numerical values or quantitative values, we're going to look at this. We're going to look for shape, center, spread, and unusual values, and we're going to use the acronym SUCKS. This sucks that we have to describe the distribution. So what are we going to look at? What is going to be? So let's go back to this previous one and look at the whoops, sorry. Got something weird there. Go away. All right, now you're just being obnoxious. So let's look at this distribution. So first thing, what is the shape? So if I was going to draw, let's just kind of draw in like that. That's the general shape of the distribution. So first of all, when we talk about shape, what we're going to talk about, is it symmetric, meaning is it balanced, or is it skewed? And what we'll see is that this data is skewed over here. Right? It's short here, and then it has this tail over here. And so we're going to call this right skewed. So when we were describing the center, we would say the distribution is right skewed. That would be our description of the shape. Okay, well that's easy enough. What else? So we had shape, center. Well, center, where's the center? Now, we're going to learn how eventually to get numeric centers, but for now, the center is going to be a balance point. Pretend like you were going to put this on a little teeter-totter, and you need it to balance. And so, where do I move this so it's going to balance? And, you know, that's the arm's out over there, so I'm going to guess that somewhere around there is going to be the balance point. So, we would say the center is between 2 and 3. All right, so we got a center, we got a shape, spread. For now, spread's going to be a little tough for you guys right now because we haven't learned our measures of spread. You may have learned them in Algebra 2, but we'll definitely learn them in the next video, which is IQR and standard deviation. But for now, just trust me, you're going to have to describe the spread. And then, is there anything unusual? Well, is there anything unusual in the data? No. Now, if we had someone who had a dot out here at like 12 kids, or like there was that TV show on the 18 and counting, that would be an unusual value. That'd be an outlier. That'd be some point that was so far out, it boggled our mind. Um, and we will learn a formal definition of an outlier later. So, once again, when we talk about the shape, is there a center peak? Is there more than one center peak? If there's one peak, we call that unimodal. But it could be bimodal, which means there's two peaks, right? Is there a tail or is it symmetric? If it's skewed, then the direction that the tail is going is what it is. How spread out is it? For now, the one that you guys have for spread would probably be range. And then are there any way out values, anything weird going on with the graph, anything unusual, like just something that doesn't look right? And we'll look at lots of distributions this year, so you'll be able to look at something and be like, huh, something there's hinky. And that's something we're going to want to comment on. And like I said, we'll learn, there'll be actually a formula for how to find out if something is an outlier coming up. And we'll also learn better ways to measure shape and spread. But for now, I just want to comment on it. So, is this data symmetric? Is it right or left skewed? Well, no, now, data is never going to be perfect. If data is perfect, then it's probably been faked. So we would say this is roughly symmetric. And it's kind of the same on the left and on the right, bounced on that center. You know, we draw it, looks pretty symmetric. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. Here we have two graphs. Both graphs are right skewed. If we were to kind of smooth them out, they'd look like that. So this is a distribution, if we can see, of salary among females and males. Both distributions are right skewed. Both distributions, the center of both distributions are about the same. And we'll learn this later, is, the balance point on this one's going to be a little bit higher than the balance point here, probably, because of that tail. So we would say that the center of the men is higher than the center of the women. I guess we should stick with males and females. And we would say the male data is much more spread out than the female data. And once again, we'll learn better ways to describe these when we learn things like standard deviation and mean. But for now, we're just going to talk about that. And are there any unusual values? Well, there's this one very high value here. Also, there's a weird little peak here in the men. That could just be a statistical aberration. But these are the things you'd have to comment on. Also, if on the AP exam they ask you to compare, you need to say they are either the same or one is bigger than the other. There needs to be descriptive. You can't write complete sentences about the men and then complete sentence about the female. You need to write one sentence comparing the men to the women. And we'll get back to this when we get into our AP exam prep. The last thing in this unit is stem plots. So a stem plot is where we create kind of a little key instead of writing all the numbers out. And so I'm going to do a stem plot real quick here. So if we would do 1. And so for 16, I'd write a 6 here. And then I'd write a 7 for the 17 and a 9 for the 19, 0, and then putting in the rest of the values, we get this, and we get a dot plot. It's like a dot plot, but instead of it's on its side, we also would need a key. We'd say 1-6 equals is 16, so that we can describe how this works. What's cool about a stem plot is there's a little trick to a stem plot, and I'll show that to you next class, because when we start class, we're going to create a stem plot. So I'll see everybody tomorrow.